We have the privilege this morning of hearing from a great friend of Kylie and mine. When we were at Southern Wesleyan, we had the privilege of studying with a lot of other pastors and up-and-coming spiritual and Christian leaders. And so we have the privilege of learning from Andre Winters this morning. He is a church planter in the Low Country. As you can see, it's going to be in Moncks Corner, which I'm not super familiar with the geography of, but we had the opportunity last night and then yesterday afternoon just to kind of speak with Andre and to hear his heart for the lost people in the Low Country, especially of our state. And by an extension of the Wesleyan Church, Andre and his wife, Erin, and their little boy, Mason, I don't know if you got to see him or not, but they are a delight and a joy to have with us this morning. And so would you guys just join me in welcoming them this morning as we invite Andre to speak?
Thank you, Pastor Dylan. It really is a huge privilege of ours to get to be here with you folks this morning. And so we've traveled just a few hours to get to be here in the upstate. We used to live here, and I love the mountains here. And although we're pretty close to the beach, I will say it's pretty nice to be there at the beach and on the seashore, picking up seashells and shark teeth and swimming in the ocean. We do love being up here where we've lived here for so many years. And so like we're in this new season of planting a new church. My wife and I, Erin, right here, we're also in the season of starting a new family. And so, of course, I'm a man who loves his family, so I have some pictures to show you folks. So this first picture is actually one at Christmas. That's baby Mason right there. He's downstairs in the nursery, but I hope that you get to see his cute, chubby cheeks after the service today. He's an adorable little baby boy. And he was born October 19th, and he's about to be 6 months old. I can't believe, he came out, he was only 7 pounds and 5 ounces. This is a tiny little boy, and it was such a beautiful day that day it was, but I can't believe that he's about to be 6 months old. Those of you who are parents, you probably, have said the phrase, the time flies by, but the days, they seem to last forever. And I never really realized how true that statement is, that the days are long. The days are long, but the time, it flies by. And I really can't believe that he's about to be 6 months old. And so there he was, I think he was probably 2.5 months old at Christmas. Here's another picture, one of our family pictures. This is one of my favorites. This is probably one that will show his future wife. All right, when mom and dad were kissing in his chubby cheeks, and he just kind of had that facial expression of, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if I like it yet, or I don't know what. But I love that picture. It's one of my favorite family pictures of ours. And here's another picture I'd love to show you. That's Mason at 5 months old. And this boy has a beautiful smile. I hope that today you get to see him smile. And I love, especially just as a dad, to come home after a very long day of work and to see my beautiful wife and to see my beautiful baby boy smiling. And it does something to you, those of you guys who are dads, it does something to you to see your boy smiling at you like that. And I don't know if he's smiling at me because I'm making goofy faces or because he's filling up his diaper for me to change. I'm kind of not really sure what's going on there, but either way, I'm happy to see him smile. Here's another picture I'd love to show you folks. So this picture was actually the day that Mason was born. There's a little Mason right there. Like I said, October 19th, and he was like that the entire day, just looking at everybody, right? Looking at the nurses and the doctors and mom and dad and grandpa and grandma and his uncles who were there, who were just celebrating his arrival. And I remember there in that moment, I was holding him for the first time, and his eyes were open like that. And I wasn't having a staring contest, but he was winning. This boy wasn't blinking. I was kind of nervous. I'm like, I don't want his eyes to dry out. So I'm holding him, I'm like, all right, Mason, blink for daddy. Come on, blink for daddy. We need to take care of our eyes. Blink for daddy. And he'd blink. I'd be like, yes, I nailed this parenting stuff. It's going to be a breeze. I got this. It's going to be all, downhill from here. It's a piece of cake. But I remember that day more than any other days that we've had together as a new family. I remember that day especially because there was this moment that I really cherish. You see, my wife had already brought Mason into the world, and she'd done an incredible job when she was resting there in the bed and there in the hospital. And, Grandpa and Grandma, they had already left, and the doctors and nurses, they had left the room, and it was just the three of us. This new, little moment as a brand new family, and life would never be the same. And as Erin was resting, and I was just sitting there as a new dad holding my baby boy, I was looking at him. He was looking at me. And I started just to think of the days ahead. Maybe you've had moments like this. I started thinking about the days ahead, about how one day this little guy is going to be chasing around, running around the house, I'm going to be chasing after him, I'm going to be playing with him and making him laugh and giggle. I started to dream about how one day, Mason's going to call me daddy for the first time. I get to hear his voice. I started to picture about how, even right now we're, saying, hey, Mason, pick this up, hold this, and hey, come on, walk, move around. And in the future, we're saying, hey, stop, drop that, stop moving, stay where you're at. And it's just funny how those are the days that are ahead of us. And I started to picture these moments of pushing him on a swing in a park in our neighborhood. And I started dreaming about the day, about how this adorable little baby boy is going to grow up and he's going to be this little gentleman for his mom. He's going to get his coat for when it's raining outside or if it's cold. He's going to open the car door for her and stuff like that. I started dreaming about how this little boy's going to grow up and how he's going to grow up as a pastor's kid and how one day he's going to make the decision for himself to love Jesus. How he's going to make a decision of saying, I want to give my life to God. And as a dad, I'll one day get to baptize my boy, and I'm just dreaming those moments ahead. I think it's pretty awesome that we have the ability to dream stuff like that. Those of you who are parents that probably have a ton more stories and experience than I do, but you've had moments where you've dreamed. And I think it's pretty amazing. We need to visualize such powerful images in our minds that really kind of get our heart going. They kind of build this excitement and this ambition inside of us to dream dreams of how we would love to see the future unfold. There's this incredible quote I want to share with you guys. It's actually from this very old man. He's already passed away, but his name was T.E. Lawrence. And he shared this pretty powerful quote about dreaming. He said, all men dream, but not equally. You see, there are those who dream at night in the dusty recesses of their minds, but they wake up in the morning to find that it was simply just vanity. It wasn't real. But there are those that are dreamers of the day. And those people are dangerous because they have the ability to act out their dreams with eyes open to make their dream be a reality. You see, maybe in your family you've had a dream of starting a new family, of raising kids, of finding that perfect spouse and that perfect husband or wife, that dream of starting something new, of kind of overcoming an obstacle or a challenge that's ahead of you. Maybe you're in a season of maybe trying to conquer any sort of debt or achieve this financial stability in your life, but you've had dreams, right? This is not a foreign subject. You guys have them, right? Come on, nod with me. Yes, come on. I don't know how Pastor Kylie, Pastor Dylan are, but come on, go get. We're at the beach. We like to kind of roll together. But we've had these dreams that push us forward, dreams that drive us to change the circumstances that we're in life, right? We find ourselves in the pit. We want to get out of them. And so we hold on to this hope that keeps moving us forward. And I think one of the most powerful dreams that was ever shared in the history of our country, that not just moved one man or one people group, but moved our entire nation, was actually shared a while ago on August 28th. 1963 by this simple man from Georgia who stood on the footsteps of the Lincoln Memorial, and he shared this powerful dream that shook our country when he said, I would love to see a day when little black girls and little black boys could hold hands with little white girls and little white boys, and as together be brothers and sisters. You see, you've probably heard of this dream with Martin Luther King Jr., how he dreamed of a day when people of different cultures would be one big family. And that is probably one of the most memorized and heart-pounding dream that we've heard in school. We've heard our whole life growing up, especially those of us who were born a few years later. See, dreams bring movement, and dreams bring movement, and then movement brings momentum into our world, and they change things. And I really believe that this capacity we have to dream such big dreams comes from our Creator, comes from God Himself. Did you know that God is actually quite the dreamer? Have you ever thought of God as that? He's a dreamer. He's a big dreamer. You see, before the world ever existed, God dreamed it all up. Before there would ever be a sunrise or sunset to ever happen, God visualized them all. We've seen some beautiful sunrises on the ocean, and we've seen some immaculate sunsets here in the mountains. I'm sure you've seen some. Before any of them ever happened, God visualized them all. Before any animals to ever live would ever make a noise, God heard its sound. Think of all the birds that are flying around, and you listen, you hear the noises they make. God, He dreamed all those noises up before they ever actually happened. Wow, what an imagination God has. And think about us. Those of us today, and those of us who come before us, and all the people who will come after us, God has visualized all of our faces. Man, he saw baby Mason's face before he was ever born, before we even got to see his face. See how cute he is. He's seen us all, and he's seen our lives. He's imagined all of it. And God is a dreamer. I want us to grab hold of that. Right? Grab out, reach out and grab, say, I want to grab a hold of this truth. Go ahead. Stick out your hand, I'm going to grab a hold of this. Kind of if you're reaching out if you're at the grocery store, grabbing for a gallon of milk. Let's do this. Reach out. Grab a gallon. We're grabbing out for this dream, this truth that God is a dreamer. And there's this moment in the Bible that I think God shares a pretty powerful dream. This dream that I'm afraid that we might have forgotten, we might have lost sight of. And I want us to reach out and grab it once again this morning. And so we're going to check this dream out. It's in Luke 15. And so if you have a Bible with you or a smartphone with a Bible app on it, I encourage you to get it out. Luke 15. Luke is kind of the New Testament portion of your Bible, so in the kind of the last third. And so if you break up into thirds, you kind of pinch those pages and flip open. Luke 15 is where we're going to be at. But here in this moment, something pretty powerful happens. So kind of set the scene. So Jesus is sharing a meal with some tax collectors and some sinners, some people of that society who really thought were evil and that you shouldn't kind of associate yourself with. And so Jesus is sharing a meal with these people, and these religious leaders and these Pharisees were kind of looking on the outside in, and they're thinking, man, they're starting to judge Jesus. They're starting to question his decision to do those things and to become friends with those people. And so Jesus knows what's going on in their minds and their hearts, and so he shares this parable, and I want us to grab onto this parable this morning. So Luke 15, we're going to read verses 1 through 7 together. It's also going to be on the screen for you folks to follow along. So Luke 15. Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathering around to hear Jesus. But the Pharisees and teachers of the law muttered, "This man welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go out after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls to his friends and neighbors together and he says, "Rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep." I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. You see, right here in this moment, Jesus shares a pretty big dream. He shares this reality that God has a dream for the world, that not one person would be on the outside of his promises. You see, you might have heard a sermon or read this parable that Jesus tells, or you might have read a devotional, so you kind of have this reality, this understanding that Jesus isn't just talking about sheep right here. Right? He's talking about something bigger. He's talking about people, he's talking about humanity, he's talking about souls. And just as the shepherd in this parable is not okay with even one being on the outside, and that he's not just satisfied with the 99, even one is too much that's gone, that he leaves everything and goes out after it. God is saying, listen, I have a dream that every person, every single person, our families. I don't come from a Christian family, so my brothers and sisters, my parents, my nieces and nephews, my cousins, everyone in my family, and all the people in your families and people we work with, every single person in the world would know God. I don't know, maybe if there's been a point in your life where you thought, you know that we need to invite people to church, we need to kind of lead people to Christ, we know that. But has there been a point where you're like, it's too much, it's too big of an issue. I'll just sit back and kind of watch life go by, and I'll do my thing. But God has really shared his dream. He's like, listen, I don't just want to just see this happen, but I want to use everybody who's already found me, who's already found my peace and my purpose, people who've already discovered and joined in a new life with Jesus, which is all of us here this morning, all the other people who are around the world worshiping God together on Sunday, the same morning, the exact same time as us right now. People are sitting in other churches. God is saying, listen, I want everybody to rally together and go out after all those who are far away from God, those who aren't sharing in the hope that he has. You remember that moment when he discovered Jesus? How you kind of felt hopeless and lost before, but you received this peace that you had no idea where it came from. It came from God. You remember that moment? That God is dreaming for a day when every single person would experience that. And so here, my wife and I, we moved to Moncks Corner. We used to live here, but we're originally from Michigan. We moved to Moncks Corner, which is outside the Charleston area, if you're not too familiar. We moved there to start a church that would reach people who aren't around other churches. We know about that. But to be a new church in that community that would see souls who are far from God come close to Him. Hear me, that the purpose of planting new churches, to starting new churches, isn't to push older churches out. It's not to steal people who are already a part of churches. It's not to steal their Christians. It's not about that. Hear me, that starting new churches is truly to make room for all those who are on the outside and bring them in. Because although it would be incredible, I mean, picture with me for a moment. Those of you who are here and you've been a part of Corner Wesleyan Church, imagine a Sunday where you walk in and you can't find a seat because they're all full. Imagine if this place was packed out with people. That would be pretty incredible. That would be amazing. But the reality is even if this church and all the other churches here in Lyman were filled, there would still be thousands of people who wouldn't be able to find a place in a church on Sunday morning because there are not enough churches. There's not enough room. And so hear me, that starting new churches is not to push out older ones. It's to make more room for those who are on the outside and bring them in. That's the purpose of starting new churches. And God has brought us to Charleston to do so. God has gripped our hearts for the people of that community and that city. And so that one day we'd see hundreds of people finding Jesus, find that hope that He's so ready to bring into their life, that purpose that they've been looking for, to bring readily available to them. See, that's what we're dreaming to do in that community. And so as we moved there, I remember we moved there with no idea of the culture. We moved there with no jobs. We moved there with no understanding, with no friends. We knew nobody in Moncks Corner. And just to get to Chick-fil-A, we had to use our phones, our GPSs, right? Because you got to get some Chick-fil-A. You got to. That's no doubt. We moved here from Michigan, right? They don't have Chick-fil-A. It is amazing. That is truly a sent from God. I love Chick-fil-A. And so just to get there, we had to use the GPSs on our phone. And so we knew nothing about the community. But when we moved there, we started to examine, we started to learn, and we started to do research to learn about our communities. We're driving around, we're seeing all these churches. Because maybe you have the same mindset, and we don't need any more churches. There's already enough. And we felt that when we moved to Moncks Corner, we saw, man, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of churches. And I remember one time I was sitting at McDonald's, because we're broke, and McDonald's is cheap, so I'm all about that. And we were sitting there at McDonald's, and I was drinking some sweet tea, and I started to cry over our community. Because God showed me something. You see, I was sitting there that day, I was doing some research on our community, on our city, and I discovered that there are 60,000 people in Moncks Corner. There are a lot of people, and Moncks Corner is very spread out. If you're familiar with the geography of that community, it's very, very spread out, but there's a ton of people who live there. But what I found so interesting, even I was driving around and saw dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of churches, that 70% of that community does not go to church. That out of the 60,000 people, there are 42,000 people in that city that don't know Jesus. That don't have the same peace and joy that we have. They don't have the same hope for a greater future, for a better life. They don't have that. So our hearts are broken for our community, because even in the parable that Jesus shares, He shares this ratio of 99 that are safe and 1 that's lost. And in the parable, He shares that the shepherd has this outrageous urgency to go reach the 1. See, 99 to 1 is nowhere near the ratio of Moncks Corner. It is 30 to 70. And I wonder if in the parable, if the parable reflected that same ratio, that 30 sheep were safe and 70 had wandered off, I wonder what the urgency of the shepherd would even look like. You see, we felt and we've kind of had God pour into us this urgency, this deep, grinding desire, and to reach our community. It's like I shared, we knew nothing about Moncks Corner, right? I mean, just like you probably don't know much about our city. We had no personal connections to it. We just knew that there were people who needed Jesus. And so I got a second job that would really help me learn our community. I got a job as a school bus driver. right? That big yellow thing that you hate getting stuck behind in traffic, that's me all day. That's me right there. The person who shouted at all the kids, that's me all day long. But I love being a school bus driver. I love it. I love seeing all the kids get on the bus, and I love being such an encouraging presence for them every day. I see them for 20, 30 minutes in the morning and 20, 30 minutes in the afternoon. But there are so many things that discourage our students today, and I love the opportunity to be one who encourages them. Simply by saying good morning and have a great day, and hey, remember to make today the greatest day of the week. Or hey, live today on purpose. Do something meaningful today. I love encouraging our students. I love the little kids, right? I love the little kids in the morning because they get on. I pick up some of our little kids, like the 4, 5, 6-year-olds, really early in the morning, like 6:15 in the morning, right before the sun is even out. These kids are getting on the bus, and I love because they're getting on the bus, and it's crazy. They have more energy than the high schoolers. The high schoolers get on the bus, and they're like zombies. I pick them up at like 9 o'clock, but these little kids, they get on the bus, and I'm just like, good morning. I'm like, good morning, it's so good to see you. And they smile back like, good morning, Mr. Bus Driver, because they don't know my name, and that's okay. And I'm like, good morning, it's so good to see you. And I love watching these little kids, like these 4 or 5-year-olds, right? Because they look at the bus steps, these 3, 4, 5 steps to get on the bus, and look at them as if it's the hardest challenge of the day. It's like you and I, we look at steps, right? We have steps in our house. You walk up steps to get to the church. And look at steps, we don't even think twice, right? As adults, like, oh, I'm going to go up the steps, piece of cake, right? But for these kids, these 4 or 5-year-old kids, these are like the slopes of Mount Everest, right? And so they look at these steps and they're like, oh my goodness. And so they like, they're making a game plan. They're going to go this first second. So it takes them a few seconds. But they reach up the handrails and they're stepping up and they're like, oh my goodness. And it takes every bit of energy they have in the morning, and they get up and they're like, yes. And they get to the very top of the bus step and they're just like, yes, I made it. Just like when they climb a mountain, they kind of put a little flag in the ground and they do a little celebration dance. But they get excited. I just say, good morning, it's so good to see you. And without failure, I have kids every day. These little kids come to me, they're like, Mr. Bus Driver, I have a tooth that's loose. Or look, I lost a tooth. And I'm like, that's great. Here's a Tic Tac. Your breath stinks. You forgot to brush your teeth, but it's okay. I'm so excited that you're, that happened. I love it. I love seeing all these kids, and I love getting to talk with their parents for a quick second at the bus stop. I love it. But I've had the privilege. I've driven for a lot of community. I've driven for a lot of neighborhoods in our city. The nice neighborhoods and the bad ones. And I am beyond grateful that God has put me in a bus where I drive kids who live in the worst conditions, in the worst neighborhoods of our city. Because there are many days. Or just like that time at McDonald's, I find myself crying because I'm heartbroken over what I see. You see, there's a 7-year-old girl I used to pick up. Her name was Lila. And every morning she'd come running out of the house and her mom would be screaming at her to get to the bus stop. And she'd walk up to the bus and her mom wouldn't even help her tie her shoes. She's mostly walking down her gravel driveway barefoot, holding her shoes so that I can help her put her shoes on. And her hair is a mess and she's bawling her eyes out. Could you imagine starting school every day at 7 years old like that? There's one neighborhood I used to drive for that all these kids would get on the bus and I'd say good morning to them and they'd get on and say, Mr. Bus Driver, would you please get us to school so we don't miss breakfast and have to wait until lunch to have our first meal? There's another neighborhood I used to drive for, this huge apartment complex, kind of like the projects of our town. And I remember one morning I pulled up to the bus stop and kids were getting on and I looked out my window and there were these 9, 10-year-old boys. They rode a different bus and they were waiting for theirs, and they were all kind of in a group together, and they were singing this song. And my heart was destroyed because I was listening to what they were saying, and they were reciting the words of this song. They had all these nasty, degrading comments about women and these nasty, foul language words that were in this song, and they knew it better probably than they knew their ABCs. And my heart was destroyed. I was like, that's not okay. And I remember I was sitting there and I was like, God, would you one day bring this boy's family to our church? Would maybe just someday this boy come into our kids' ministry, like what you guys have downstairs? Would this boy sometime come into our kids' ministry? And would he learn songs about how awesome God is? And learn this one song about how much Jesus loves him because the Bible tells him so? And would he please remember those lyrics more than those others? You see, in this community, it's hidden. And not many talk about it, but there's this illness, this very bad sickness that exists in our city amongst women. and it's called poverty. And I realize that we've heard of that, and we know it when we see it. But we've almost become accustomed, like it's a normal thing to see. And we've almost lost this insensitivity. It no longer hurts us. It no longer is a heaviness on our hearts. But it's so very real and so very present in our city. And not many people are doing anything about it. You see, there are so many people who wake up every day stuck in this trap of life and they can't get out. It's not that they wanted to be there, they necessarily got themselves there. It's that they grew up and they followed the same footsteps of their parents. And so it's this generational life that's being passed on to kids, from parents to kids and to grandkids. And it just keeps going on. I've heard from so many people in the communities in these neighborhoods that have always been this way, are simply just getting worse. That although there are dozens of churches doing good things, having food banks and clothing drives and doing different events, and those things are great, those things are needed. Many people receive help through those things, but the neighborhoods aren't changing. Kids are still following the same life as their parents. I believe God is dreaming for a church that would do something different. You see, I grew up in a small town in Michigan. I grew up in a farm town, very, very small town, and there were corn, fields everywhere. There were probably more cornfields than people. But they're a very, very small town. And one of my best friends, his name was Jeff, and he was a farmer. And every day he'd come to school, and he was a tall guy. I'd say, "Hey, Jeff, what's up, man?" And we'd talk, and he always wore these boots. Kind of didn't get it. I didn't live on a farm, but he always wore boots. He always wore these boots, and they were always dirty and messy. I'm like, man, what's up about it? I asked him one day, I'm like, why do you wear boots all the time? Wear tennis shoes like a normal person. I'm like, come on, man, like, what's going on? And I asked him. And he kind of sat back for a second. He's like, Andre, he's like, I wake up in the morning before the sun ever rises. He's like, go out to milk the cows. And every morning I go out, none of the cows are sitting in the stations waiting for me. And even when I come out, I could call their name. I could yell, "Hey, cow, come in here and get milk." But they never would come. He's like, you gotta have your boots on to jump into the mess and to go out after them and bring them in. And that moment he shared with me, I realized that as the church, we have to be willing to wear some boots, to jump into the messy places that other people aren't willing to go, so that we can bring hope and purpose and peace and dignity into people's lives who are trapped in this way of living that is destroying their humanity. Because God is dreaming to do something great through these people. They have such great potential. These thousands of families who are suffering from this. God is dreaming for a day to bring great purpose into their life. But they're missing out because not many people are willing to go into those places. And that's a part of our heartbeat as a new church. You see, I had a conversation with one of my middle school students a few weeks ago, and I was talking to him, and he was like, yeah, he's in middle school. You guys know what that's about. But he was in middle school, so he thought he was all cool and that. And I was talking to him, and his name was Brandon, and he told me, he's like, he's like, oh, you're a pastor? Because I shared with him that we were planting a church, and I was like, yeah, I'm a pastor. And he was like, hold up. And he's like, one, you still look like you're in high school. True. I do look like I should be riding the bus and not driving the bus. I get that. I still look like I'm in high school. And he's like, and you're a pastor. And you're a school bus driver. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I love it. And he's like, okay. And he's like, so where's your church going to be at? He asked me that question, like many people, where's your church going to be at? In Monk's Corner. Where's your church going to be at? And I was like, we're actually looking to rent our local middle school. And he was like, why? Right? He spends all 8 hours of his day, there. He's like, why would you want to have your church in the middle school? It's one of our older schools in our community. It's not really the nicest, prettiest school. He's like, why would you want to be there? I said, we really be a church that reaches out to the neighborhoods that are directly around the corner from it. And we'll be a church that does that loves on those people. And he was like, huh. He's like, you're going to have a lot of stinky kids who come to your church. And I was like, man, I hope they all come. We'll have a Bubbles and Jesus kind of kids ministry. I don't know, but I hope they all come. And so we're here in this new community, and we have a dream of seeing God bring purpose and dignity and hope into people's lives and be a church that helps people step out of these traps of generational poverty, and so they can live out their God-given potential because they are created in the image of God, just like me, just like you, just like Mason, just like all these kids, because I'm tired of hearing stories of kids who've never met their dad. I'm tired of hearing stories of kids who who their mom's never home because she's addicted to drugs. I'm tired of hearing stories where single moms have no idea where their husband, their boyfriend's at, and the only way for them to make money is to prostitute themselves. I'm tired of hearing stories like that. I want to see God redeem our city and reclaim these people's souls that the enemy has taken, that are in very dark places. We're going to be a church that happily puts our boots on and steps in kind of messy places. So along with being a church that has that kind of dream, we have also another dream that we believe that God is wanting to see happen in our city. You see, what I love about Moncks Corner is that it is actually an incredibly culturally diverse city. See, like I said, I grew up in a small town in Michigan. It was white people and cornfields. That was it, right? Everybody looked the same. There was no cultural diversity. There was no racial diversity. And now we're in this city starting a church, and there's all these different cultures and all these different ethnicities and all these different people on even different levels of the socioeconomic spectrum who have all these different, income amounts and salary amounts and everything. So there's all these different types of people. But what we've really discovered is that within our community, there's such a tension between different people groups. And that if you have this color skin and you make this much money, you live in this neighborhood and you shop at this grocery store and you go to this church. And if you anything different, then you go to that neighborhood and you go to that grocery store and you go to that church. And so although in our community there's all these different types of people, there's so much division and honestly bitterness between people. And we believe it sickens God's heart. There are two little girls I'd love to share with you about that. I've gotten to talk to on our school bus. One of them, her name is Jocelyn. And she's 7 years old, and she's one of my African-American students, and she's an adorable kid. And every morning when she gets on the bus, I smile at her, she smiles back at me, and there are many days where I need her smile more than she needs mine. And she's one of the first kids I pick up, and she sits right here next to me, and she always plays on her phone because it's a long bus ride, and so she plays this dress-up Barbie game. Right? I'm glad we had a son. I'm glad we had a boy, because I'm not sure yet with all this Barbie stuff, but she loves it. She loves this game. She loves putting the makeup and the hair and the clothes and all this other stuff on these dolls on her phone. And she was like, hey, Mr. Bus Driver, hey, Mr. Andre, check this out. I'm just like, that's great. I love it. Way to go. Do another one. And so she'll, reset it and she'll do it again. And I noticed this pattern where she would usually always play with the dolls who had white skin and the ones that didn't look like her. And so one morning she showed me a couple dolls, and I said, Jocelyn, why don't you play with the dolls that look like you? She kind of let her head down, and she said, Mr. Andre, it's harder for me to make those dolls look prettier. It's easier to make these dolls with lighter skin look beautiful. And this 7-year-old girl had lost sight of her beauty and her worth because the world around her was telling her she wasn't good enough because of the color of her skin. Yeah, another day, a few weeks later, I was talking to another one of my students in the bus. Her name was Erin. She's 5 years old. And she was also sitting right here, and we were talking, and she's one of those kids who has tons of energy, and she's so friendly. She makes friends with everybody. And she's another one of my black students. She sits right here next to me. I love her. She's amazing. And I was talking to her. And she was sharing all about her day and everything. And I was like, okay, great, that's awesome. And she's like, Mr. Andre, out of the blue, she asked me this question. Mr. Andre, she's like, I know that there are a lot of black people who really don't like white people, but I want you to know that I really like you. And I was like, well, thanks, Erin. I love you too. You're like, that's great. But before I could even get that out, she says, Mr. Andre, I know that there are also a lot of white people who don't like black people. And she's like, I was wondering if you liked me. I remember I was on the bus and she was sitting in her seat, and I knelt down next to her. And I was like, Erin, I want you to know that I really like you. And nothing will ever change that. You are my friend. There's nothing you could do that ever take that away. And so both of these little girls, because of the evil and poison that is so loud in our community, are having their dignity and their worth being ripped away from them. At 5 and 7 years old, that is not okay. Because it's so real in that community. And we're dreaming to be a church that heals some of these wounds that exist And we're dreaming to be a church that's such a life-giving, unifying presence in our community. We're dreaming for that. What I find amazing is that in Revelation 7:9, John shares about this moment that he sees this worship scene in heaven where all these people of different cultures and different languages are worshiping God together. And what I find interesting is that Jesus teaches us this prayer where we're praying for heaven to come to earth, right? The Lord's Prayer. It's about heaven coming to earth. I believe in our community, God is dreaming to bring the worship scene of heaven to Moncks Corner, where people of different cultures and languages would worship God together as one big family. Oh, what a beautiful thing that would be. Because our city is missing out on this piece of heaven. Our city's missing out on it. Oh, and how beautiful it would be to be one big family. Oh, so that's what we're dreaming to do in Moncks Corner. You see, I can't wait for our church to start. We start this September. And right now we're doing a lot of things in our community, different outreach events and Bible studies and different things. And it's wonderful. We have lots of families who are already jumping on a part of our church right now to kind of work together to start this thing in September. And I'm so excited for us to be a presence that transforms our community. Because we felt this urgency, right? The same urgency I shared with you earlier. We have these two dreams of seeing people step out of this generational poverty and seeing a dream of racial reconciliation happen in our community. But both of those dreams come second to leading people to Jesus. Because both of those things will be taken care of as natural byproducts of hearts being renewed with Jesus. And so we have this huge dream of in the next 5 years being a church that starts other churches, because there are not many Wesleyan churches in our community down there. There are not many Wesleyan churches in the Charleston area. And so part of our DNA even right now, we're going to be a church that starts other churches. I want to be a church that in the next 5 years, man, we want to see 4,000 people through all the churches that we plant come to Christ. To experience the same peace and joy and purpose that you and I live in every day. The people of the 42,000 that are missing out in Moncks Corner. And so I want us to reflect on a moment together, because I want us to see what's happening. You see, me this morning sharing about our church plan is more than me just sharing and you guys listening. You see, it's actually a pretty historical moment that's taking place. You see, Lyman, I don't know if you knew this, Lyman Wesleyan Church, you guys are 104 years old. Woo! And you're still kicking. 104 years old. That's amazing. That's incredible. We've gone to a lot of churches, and this is pretty much the oldest church we've ever been to. That is incredible. Amazing that you guys have been here for so long. It is beautiful. It's incredible. But what's incredible about it, too, as I hear him today, right, on April 15, 2018, there's this incredible reality that's happening where there's this friendship being formed between Lyman Wesleyan Church and the Corner Church in Moncks Corner. This is not just me sharing about our church. This is a friendship that's being built. Because 100 years from now, when you guys are 100 or 204 years old, and we're 100 years old, people are going to say, you know, Pastor Andre and his wife Erin and Martin, man, I remember when they went to Lyman, right? I remember when they went to Lyman and those people, they rallied around them and they helped start what's now in Moncks Corner. That's a pretty amazing reality. I want you guys to see that. It's not just two churches. It's this one family that stretches from Lyman to Moncks Corner, hundreds of miles. And so I want you guys to see that, because it's a beautiful reality. And I am so excited that you guys are joining in on what's happening in Moncks Corner. Because every kid, every woman and man that is rescued from poverty is not just because of us, it's because of you. And every heart that's renewed because of the anger and bitterness that sits so deep inside, it's not just because of us, it's because of you guys. It's because of us together. I want you to see that. And so what's pretty incredible is that there are 3 different ways for you guys to kind of be a part of what's happening in Moncks Corner. And this first one, this is when you guys want to, I really encourage you to grab your card right here. You have got it when you came in. But there are 3 ways, and the first one is the biggest way to be a part of what's happening in Moncks Corner. For Lyman to kind of be a huge, kind of like a parent to us. A parent who's ready to see their kid go off to college and step out into life on their own. You see, in the first way is that I would love for you guys to be a family that prays for us. I really encourage you guys to be a part of our prayer team. What's pretty amazing is that we have hundreds and hundreds of families all around our country who are praying on a daily basis for us in Moncks Corner. And Moncks Corner, that's how people say it, Moncks Corner. I don't think we pronounce Lyman who are locals, but Moncks Corner, Moncks Corner. We have hundreds of people all around the world, some even in Canada, so we're kind of international with this thing. But we have this massive prayer team of people who are praying for us because we're creating something that doesn't exist. And God is the only one who can create something out of nothing. And so please, with us and with hundreds of other families, be praying for God to do something in Moncks Corner, to build our church, not necessarily with quantity, but even in influence, and that we would see souls saved, that God would do great things in our midst, and that we, Lyman and Corner, would be able to celebrate together. We send out prayer newsletter emails every month. We're actually going to send out our next one this next week. And so I really encourage you guys, if you guys fill out that information right there, you hear me saying you guys, once again from Michigan, from the north, and so we say you guys, y'all, I'll fix that, y'all. Y'all, I really encourage you guys, I did again, sign up to be a part of our prayer team family. Be praying for us. Receive these emails with all these pictures of cute Chubby Mason, and also pictures of what's happening in Moncks Corner. I really encourage you guys, because I tell you what, this is truth. This is real. Check this out. I want to brag on God for a moment. Is that cool? Can we brag on God for a minute? I love bragging on God. Because every progress that happens in Moncks Corner is not because of me. It's because God is doing something. And so I remember I shared at one church a handful of weeks ago, and I invited people to join our team, and we had almost every family in the church, almost every family in that church joined us as prayer team. And I would love for every family that's here this morning to fill that out, to be a part of our prayer team and get our newsletters. And so they had almost every family jump on board, and what we've seen is that God does something awesome the following week. Right? Every week after we add people to our prayer team, God does something big. You see, like I said, we've been wanting to meet, we've been aiming to meet and rent out our local middle school for our church. And the schools there have actually kind of started to lean away from church. Say, we don't want any association with you. And it's been like it seems like we've been knocking at a stone door for 10 months, saying, hey, listen, can we come in? Can we come in? Hello. We've been knocking for 10 months because I've been meeting with the principal, trying to get their approval for 10 months, almost a year, trying to get approval to rent the school. And I spoke at a church, I shared that, I said, hey, be praying for this specifically. And we added all these people, and that exact same week afterwards, I met with the principal again, and he was like, actually, I'd love for you guys to be here. I'm actually looking forward to it. And I'm like, what? This is a totally different person. You've been telling me that you're not really a fan of us and you don't want us here, and now you're telling me that you do. What's going on right now? God is doing something in his heart. It's amazing. And also, I spoke at one church, and we had a gathering that same week where we invited families to kind of be a part of our church, and we had 5 new families show up out of the blue. It was amazing. So listen, I tell you what, God does something great every single time. I share about our dream, I share about our vision, and families jump on board as a prayer team partner. So I really encourage you guys, please be a part of that, because I can't wait to celebrate and share with you guys what God does this week. What God does this week. I can't wait. So please be a part of that. And a second way, as we're a new young church, we're also in a place of needing some support, some financial help. You see, I know that you came to church this morning, and you weren't expecting to be asked to give to 2 different churches. That was a lot. But we're in a place as a new young church where we need some help. Where we have to buy equipment, we have to rent the facilities, we have to do all these things, and we don't have anybody in our church. We have 8 families right now who are part of our church. There aren't many of us, but we do need some help because we're young. I remember the days when my wife and I first got married. We were living off of PB&J and ramen noodles. That was it. That was all we had when we first got married. And in a similar way, our church is young, and we're still kind of growing and putting our feet underneath ourselves. And so we need some help. And so I'd love for you guys, if you see within yourselves, to listen, I want our family, we want to support you guys. And so whatever God might lead you to do, I'd be beyond grateful. Because every dollar goes into us being a transforming presence in our community. Every bit. It doesn't matter how big or small you see it is, I'm grateful for it. I'm beyond grateful for it. Because it truly enables us to be a church that redeems souls, to be a church that puts on its boots and gets into messy places and reach people who no one else is reaching. So I invite you guys with your family, pray about that. And here towards the end of the service, Pastor Dylan will get up and he'll kind of close us out. But in another way, you guys can also be a part of what's happening in a third way. And if you might happen to know somebody who lives amongst Corner, see, it takes a lot of people to start a church. And we're praying for 50 people to be part of our church to help start. Because it takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of hands and feet to do ministry, to do things in the church. You folks know. And so we're praying for lots of people. So if you happen to know somebody who lives amongst Corner, and listen, I've spoken at a church in Michigan, and somebody who had a cousin who lived amongst Corner. That's crazy. Like, what are the odds, right? Out of all the places for that cousin to live, she lived amongst Corner, right? And so I believe that there's a possibility that you might know somebody who lives in our city. And I encourage you, at the very back of that little piece of paper, there's a little space right there where you can fill in their information, a phone number, a name and phone number would be awesome, but whatever information you have, I'd love to be able to reach out to them and invite them, whether they might be already part of a church, and that's fine. We'll let them continue to be plugged in where they're at. But if they're not a part of a church, and maybe you've been meaning to talk to them about Jesus, man, we're a new church family starting in this city. I'd love to be a pastor that reaches out to them. So please, if you can, in those three ways, be a part of what's happening. I want to share with you one more story real quick before we kind of close out our time together, and you guys are seeking God to lead you in those three things. You see, we have a parent church. We have a mom and dad church pretty much down in a city close to us called Somerville. You might have heard of Somerville. It's a whole lot bigger than Monk's Corner. You see, we partner with our parent church in Somerville, and they did this rather unusual Easter outreach last year. Most people do egg hunts. Most people do Easter events. Those are incredible things. Those are awesome. But they decided to do something different one year, where they actually decided to go out to local Red Dot stores and liquor stores and give people free hugs on the Friday night before Easter. Isn't that weird? Like, that's kind of odd. But they decided to do that, and we as a new church, we partnered with them to do that. And so I remember one night we were standing out in front of a liquor store that's in Monk's Corner. It's actually one of the shadiest parts of our community. And my wife and I, we were out there hugging people, praying with people, and God was doing awesome things. He was bringing his light into the darkest spot of our community. And it was amazing on the Friday before Easter that God was doing some powerful things. And we made our mission every single person that came, they got talked to. They got approached. Maybe they didn't want prayer, maybe they didn't want a hug. They didn't want nothing to do with us, that's okay. But maybe they want a handshake, but you're not much of a hugger. We gave handshakes. But it was a powerful night as we were doing those things. I remember we were packing up shop, and it was probably getting close to midnight, and we were getting ready to wrap things up, and we were packing things away into our vehicles, and the store was about to close, and there was this one young lady who came in. She got what she needed, and she was walking out. And like I said, it was our mission to talk to everybody. And so I'm like, it's late, it's dark, I'm going to do this as non-creepy as possible. I ran out after to this parking lot that's pitch black late at night, the sketchiest part of our town, right? I don't know about you, but if someone was chasing after me in a parking lot, I'd be screaming, right? At midnight, I'd be yelling, but she didn't. Sorry, I think that was God who kind of calmed her and made it normal for her. But I chased out after her in this parking lot. I was like, hey, listen, I need to talk to you. We're out here giving out hugs and, Easter candy, invite people to church and prayer too. So I gave her a hug, and she was like, thanks, I need that. And I was like, cool. And I was like, I'd love to pray for you. Is there anything I be praying for you about? And she was like, no, I'm good. And you know when somebody says, no, I'm good, and you see in their face, like, no, there's something going on. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like, you say, hey, how you doing? They say, oh, I'm fine. Like, you ain't fine. I can see right through that. I can see that there's something bothering you. And so in that moment, I asked her, well, what's your name? And she said, my name's Andrea. I was like, okay, Andrea. I was like, I'd really love to pray for you about something that's kind of happened in your life. I was like, what's going on? And she kind of let her head down. And she started to cry. And she said, Andrea, I found out a few weeks ago that I was pregnant. I was really excited. I was so happy to be a mom. But I found out that morning that I have some issues with the pregnancy, and I'm actually going to lose the baby. And she was destroyed. And I don't know how long she's been doing life without Jesus, but there in that moment, I got to let her know that God wasn't finished with her. That God was there with her. And that God loved her. I don't know how long God had been waiting for that divine appointment, but I know that he was extremely excited when it did finally happen. And I know that there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people in our city who God is waiting for a Christian, waiting for somebody from a church to go out and give them a hug, learn their name, and pray with them. Someone who will be willing to put the boots on and go into messy places that normal people want to go into. So we can see people who the enemy has had hands on for so long brought into a new life with God. So I am beyond grateful for you guys allowing us to be here this morning to share about our hearts, to share about Monk's Corner, to share about what God is doing. And that you guys as a church, not just Pastor Kyler and Pastor Dylan, but as a church, are rallying around us and saying, listen, man, this is an extension of our family. It's going to Monk's Corner. So here in a minute, Pastor Dylan, you're welcome to come up and close us out. But I encourage you guys, and be excited about this new friendship that's happening between us. And I encourage you, after the service, come give baby Mason a few kisses on the cheeks, because he's an adorable baby boy. But thank you guys.